Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, July 17th. As we always do, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first up is a public hearing. Vote request Goodwill Enterprises located at 623 Providence Highway to increase the number of cars that they can sell from 60 to 100. Is anybody here? Please come up.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Thank you, Jim. I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you.
Tom Jamali for Goodwill Enterprises. I just want to correct something. It's not number of cars selling from 60 to 100. It's number of cars are storing from 60 to 100.
Yep.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that we're all in the same page.
Okay.
Yes. So we had a plan. It was to increase number of the cars to 100. It went through the planning board. Planning board approved it, and they passed it through the ZBA. We went to the ZBA and they approved it. And they said, we are here for final approval of Selectmen to get a license to 100, from 60 to 100.
Issue a license for storage, we just issue a license for selling.
So, here, why don't I give you a microphone? Cindy was just saying that we don't issue a license for storage, we only issue a license for selling. And I'm not up 100% on the whole zoning thing. I do have a note that I was talking about the fire department did a review of the application. And on July 12th at 7:30, I assume a.m., I conducted a site visit and counted in excess of 120 vehicles on site. So I need some help with that, so.
So when some of our cars we were doing at our service department, we had to move it to there. We were doing some construction, but that's why it was there.
Ian?
Yeah.
Could you just give a little bit of explanation as to the layout? Do you have special parking for cars that are being repaired versus just being on the lot?
Our repair shop is down the street in Norwood, actually.
Okay.
So, when the cars arrive for sale, it goes down our service department, and they get serviced. When they're ready, it comes to Walpole at our lot for selling.
How many spaces do you have marked to be able to store the vehicles that you want to sell, the 100 vehicles?
Yeah, once you got approved through the ZBA, we marked it that we can 100 cars.
So my understanding is that the 120 cars are just parked wherever and that they could fit 100. But you would expect that going forward, once you mark your
About
100
yeah.
spaces,
100 spaces.
and that would be it?
Yeah, that would be the.
So, Jim, and just so you know, we'll go to Jim, but then I'd like to bring Dave up and ask him a couple questions, because I'm a little hazy on some of the zoning stuff, so I'd like to understand it a little bit better, so.
Yeah, and so my understanding is this is a license to sell up to 100 cars, not store. I think it's fairly clear in the documentation that that's the case, correct?
That's what it says, but it is store 100 cars.
So I guess we'll deal with Dave on that
Sure.
in a minute,
Yeah.
but because that seems that's a point that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, but I don't think there is anywhere of any car dealer there is a limit how many you can sell. It's limit how many you can store.
Yeah, but if you look at the public hearing notification.
That's not.
I mean, we're never going to
accurate
sell it
anymore, right?
nowhere close to 100 ever.
Right.
But
So I guess my question would be, how many cars are on the lot today?
around 100.
So regardless of whether it's to sell or store, your license currently is for 60, correct?
Right, but when we went through the ZBA, when they got approval, we thought that was the final approval, and they told us that everything is fine, it's 100.
And when was that?
About a couple months ago, 2 months ago.
And so there weren't 100 cars on the lot 2 months ago?
No. I didn't know if we have to go to in front of selectmen. They didn't even give us that's what we have to do. We just recently got the notification that there's another step to go. Yes.
I'll hold any other questions right now.
Could I ask Dave Norton, the building inspector, to come up and just sort of give us a little more education? I know I'm hazy on all this zoning and cars and the license, so.
Dave Norton, Building Commissioner. Under their previous special permit, they're allowed 60 cars on the property. Doesn't matter whether it's for sale or storage. I mean, technically, from our end, it's storage. The being able to sell actually comes from the board. So recently, the ZBA did increase it to 100. Now, even before, when it was at 60, and I don't know if this is the same owner of the property or the business. Are you a new owner to the business?
No.
Okay, so you've owned it for how many years?
It was then
So you just changed the name?
Yeah.
Okay. Because over the years, we have had problems with them being over the 60 cars. Matter of fact, today when I was there was 122. And I know the fire department was also recently for 120. But just, again, to clarify, the special permit now says 100, and that's cars to store there.
Mm-hmm.
After a 20-day appeal period, technically they can't store them there. They can't advertise for sale because, again, they have to get that permit from you. So that's pretty much how it works.
Okay. What are the questions for Dave?
Yeah, so let me continue with mine. So the public hearing, which we're here for tonight,
Right.
specifically says allowed to sell.
Mhm.
It doesn't say anything about store. And I may be drawing some kind of a fine line here, but I'm trying to make sure I understand exactly what it is that we're voting here tonight. And so we're authorizing to sell up to 100,
Correct.
which, for all
Is the
intents and
exact-
purposes, is also what would be on the lot.
Correct.
Okay.
So technically, they could put a for sale sign on all 100 cars that are sitting there.
Yeah, okay. So my instincts tell me, and I guess I want to hear more about the ZBA approval here, because I want to be fair here, but I also want to make sure we follow a good process. You have a current license to store 60 vehicles on the lot or sell 60 vehicles. You're asking us to increase that to 100, which we may be inclined to do, but you're also out of compliance with the original license. So my instincts coming into the meeting tonight were, as I thought about this, say, look, you should get back in compliance before we consider giving you a bigger grant. But what you said a minute ago was when you went to the ZBA, you thought that that was the end of it. You received a special permit at the ZBA. This is news to me, okay? So like Mark, I'm trying to feel my way through this a little bit. But I guess what I'd want to hear more about is what specifically you got from the ZBA and why process-wise you weren't aware that the next step was coming here.
When we were in the meeting here, they all voted and they said, no, you are approved for 100 car storage. Yes, that's what my understanding was. And
And-
I thought that was the end of it. Yes, I mean, I didn't know there would be another process. I mean, and we were here 2 months ago, everybody voted yes on it, and that's what my
So
understanding.
you went before the ZBA. The
Yeah.
ZBA granted a special permit to
For-
increase to 100 cars.
Yes, and that was my thought.
Okay, and Dave, you're in agreement with that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So ZBA apparently has issued a special permit to increase the number of cars allowed on the lot from 60 to 100.
Correct.
Okay. What was the 20 days that you referred to?
Well, any special permit is a 20-day appeal period after
Okay.
it's recorded at the clerk's office.
Yep.
So that any neighbor could appeal that decision.
And has that 20 days come and gone?
Yes.
It has, okay. Okay,
Ian?
Mr. Chairman.
So on the application, I think this is more for us to
Sure.
chat about as opposed to the applicant. It only asks how many vehicles will be on site for sale, which leads me to believe that that is truly a direct function of storage ability, being able to park there. So I don't think it's that we are being asked, I don't think there's like a maximum or minimum number that we're required to consider. I mean, from my opinion, if it's okay with the ZBA and the zoning regulations, that 100 parking spaces would be made available for him to sell up to, I would imagine 100 cars, then I think that's fine once we can establish that. But I am concerned if the ZBA did not, well, they may have, and he did not, Mr. Jamali didn't understand, or it seems like the process might be broken, if that makes sense. That he might be out of compliance
Sure.
in part because,
Yeah, but my understanding was that was when over here,
Right.
when they approved it, I thought that was the final approval.
right, so I think there might also be a communication problem that we might have to address, but if the ZBA is okay with the 100 parking spaces, I don't know if there's any conditions. Are there any conditions? Or subject to anything?
No.
Any safety?
Dave?
Well, there's still a condition, it can't be on the, no vehicles can be on the grass that's out front. I believe that's one of them. I'm sorry, I don't know all the conditions, but I know the grassy front of the property, there shouldn't be any vehicles on that grass.
Yeah, my consternation in all this is, if you had been approved for 100 and thought you were done, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. The question is, why were there 120 vehicles there on July 12th, and why were there 122 today?
Yeah, as I mentioned, our service department, we were doing some construction, I just moved some cars. We wanna go back again back to our service department. We had to drop some cars there while we're doing some construction now.
So those cars were there on the 12th, and the cars are there today?
Yeah.
So
we
they've
are-
been
we
there
are gonna
5
be moving
days?
them. Yes, we are going to move.
Is that a normal thing? Are there gonna be,
No,
are you gonna
no.
have more than 100 cars again?
No, we don't have even more than that, yeah.
Well, you had them the other day and you have them
Yeah,
today.
we brought from service department to just do some construction there, yeah. I just need a little bit space to go, we're gonna go back again, down there,
When are they gonna go back?
this week.
And there is a note here from the fire chief about multiple vehicles were parked on the front grass strip.
It's
Which-
not anymore,
Huh?
it's not anymore.
There aren't any there today?
No.
Okay. The other comment from the fire chief was fire detection throughout the facility needed to be updated. This was discussed with the manager during the last inspection, November 27, 2017. I was informed this would happen during the building renovation. If there no longer are plans for building renovation, the fire alarm system and life safety devices in the existing building still need to be updated.
We are going to renovate the building, we are going to put a new building, we are going to come back here and get the approval for new building, and we are hoping we get it done this year. Gonna be our building is old, we wanna put a brand new building on it. So, we're gonna come in back, and we're hoping to get it done this year.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Is there anybody here for this public hearing that wanted to speak about this property? Okay, I just see some people in the crowd, just wanted to be sure. Go ahead.
I don't know if we have any control over the piece of the striping, just to make sure that it will be 100 spaces. I see the plan here, so I would imagine that you'll follow the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess that's a ZBA thing anyway, so it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve said request with the stipulation,
Do we have to close the public
Oh,
hearing
I'm sorry, we
first
probably do.
procedurally? Yes, okay.
motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay,
Jim?
I'll proceed with the motion to approve said request with the stipulation the new license will not be issued for additional vehicles until all issues have been resolved with the fire department.
What issues?
The sprinkler system, I believe it was,
Yeah, sprinkler and life safety. Have you talked to the fire department lately?
No, I haven't talked, because they are aware of that, we are going to put a new building.
Yeah, we're asking them to put in a sprinkler system when they, do you have, I guess we close the hearing, can we reopen it if we're gonna have a discussion, or?
That's a great question.
Can you rescind the motion to close the hearing?
The new building.
Hold on one second. Procedurally, I'll make a motion to rescind the closing of our public hearing. Do we have a second?
second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll make a motion to reopen the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Procedurally, we just had to reopen, so.
As I understand what you're saying, you intend to not use your current structure and build a new structure.
Right.
And you're what have you done have you drawn up plans? I don't know the process, but it's one thing to say that. But are there any plans in the works to do that so that, because,
Paul, can I bring Paul? Paul is there.
Sure, come on up, yep. Welcome.
Paul Leston, the owner of the property.
Great.
So we're working with Dan American, and he's
Okay.
doing a site plan for the new building. And we hope to get in front of planning board and ZBA, as soon as possible, but it will be in the next, I would think, month or 6 weeks.
Okay, so you're actively in the process of
Yes, we are.
proposing a new building? Okay, so
Correct.
that, I think, relieves us from having to enforce the fire department's opinion right now, because a new building would take care of that. so.
Working with GNR Construction on the design and they'll be doing the new building for us.
Okay.
Okay,
That's good.
it
fair
seems
enough.
like we almost
Good
have
that
a
you're moving
date
ahead.
certain,
Yep.
not some nebulous,
great.
well, we plan in 10 years to build a new building, so we're just gonna, so does that address the
If,
issue?
If I may, again, Building Commissioner David Norton. I know, I saw the fire department's letter.
Yep.
His is more specific to the building exists today, has to be protected. Not with sprinklers, but just the fire alarm systems themselves, the way I understand it on that. If they build a new building, and I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there was a whole nother plan with a whole, even more parking spaces and stuff like that on the new plan for the new building, which would force them back to the ZBA again as well, okay? But for that fire department, they're only looking for the building that sits there today to be protected. The fire alarm system has to work. And if this project could take 3 months, could take 9 months. So in that 9-month period, got to make sure that the fire alarm system there.
so
works
are you
correctly.
doing a completely new building, or you're renovating the building and
We're
expanding it?
demoing the existing structure.
Okay,
The plan is to demo and then to build a new office and showroom for Tom.
so then, thanks, Mr. Norton. So what's in this letter does come back into play again. And I'll read it just so everybody can hear it. Fire detection throughout the facility needs to be updated. This was discussed with the manager during the last inspection, November 27, 2017. I was informed this would happen during the building renovation, which it sounds like is not happening. If there no longer are plans for a building renovation, the fire alarm system and life safety devices in the existing building need to be updated. And again, I don't know if that's a big deal or not a big deal.
Well, I have no idea. I haven't seen the letter. but
Okay.
It's not a building renovation. It's a demo of the existing structure and a rebuild.
Okay,
So that is the plan. We have not been in front of the planning board yet.
yep.
So I guess the question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is what's the timeline for that? Because as I understood it, the fire department concern was with the current structure. And so when is that current structure gonna be demoed?
It depends on planning board approval.
Yeah.
And it
So it
depends
could
on
be-
when Dan can get us in front of.
Yeah, so it could be some time.
He's been working on the site plan, so I presume it's going to be, I said, 4 to 6 weeks. I would hope to be in front of the planning board by that time.
I just don't wanna ignore the request of the fire department to make sure that we have a working alarm system in the building, in the current building. I understand that you're gonna demo it, and of course, the new structure you build will be brought up to all code, right? That'll just happen as a matter of course. But there is that concern about the time frame in the middle, which is what the note from the chief is about.
Yeah, I don't have a definitive date for you, because we don't have a date to get in front of the planning board, but.
So,
I
Mr.
don't know
Chairman,
what
I
else
think
can
we
say.
have to respect the request of the chief.
Well, I'd like to have the chief here, perhaps, and he can answer some
Did the letter
questions.
say, though, if, and I have not seen it, does it say
Sure.
if the renovation is not going forward, then it's asking for that?
Has the applicant received the letter? Has Mr. Jamali
It
received the
says
letter?
if there are no longer plans for a building renovation, the fire alarm system and life safety devices in the existing building needs to
So
be
there are
updated.
plans for a full renovation. There's-
Well,
it's
a
full-
renovation to me is different than new construction.
It's a demo of the existing building.
That's not a renovation. Again, I'm not a, So,
I think that's that's what's implied in this letter, I think. I don't know.
again, I don't know. So here's
Okay.
my suggestion. My suggestion is that we push this meeting to our next available slot. We ask the chief to come, or for you to talk to the chief and figure that out, if he's comfortable seeing the building stay as it is, or if there's anything he'd like to see done to the building right away. You know, I'd hate for during this interim period, something bad to happen, and somebody get hurt or killed. So that's my only worry.
Great.
So how does the rest of the board feel about, you know,
I'm
we'll
okay with that.
keep the public hearing open, we'll push it to, what's the next date?
August 7th?
August 7th? Would that work for you, sir?
Well,
Yeah.
it's Tom's license.
Yep, Tom, can you come back on August 7th?
I can come August 7th, but I mean, he was there, and we updated like a fire extinguisher and put more of them. He asked, and we bought the new one and we put it there. That's the only thing he asked, and we did it. I don't know.
I'm just looking at the letter from dated July 13th, so normally if he goes out and does a reinspection, he would send us an updated letter right away. So again, we're in the gray area, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'd prefer to push it and to ask the chief to either come or to give us another letter with more of an update.
I think Jim's looking for him now.
Okay. Jim, I guess, why don't we hold on just another moment? Jim has gone to see if he can get the chief to come over right now, so if he's available, we can wrap it up.
What happens to Tom's license in the interim period?
Technically, he has a license for 60 vehicles. He's trying to get a license for 100 vehicles, and he's got 122 vehicles on site today, so he's over, even if he had the new license, he's above that vehicle count.
I'm just trying to understand the process. So with the ZBA approval to store 100 cars on site, he can store 100 cars on site, but he can only sell 60?
No, he doesn't have a license to have 100 yet. ZBA has given approval for this, from their point of view, for that site. They've approved 100 vehicles
To be stored?
to be stored, sold, whatever word you want to use. But he doesn't have a license for 100 vehicles yet. That's what this is applying for, so.
So I just got off the phone with the fire chief. He didn't know the particulars in this, and Paul's out on vacation right now. I would recommend just allow the chief to come in, or Paul Barry, the deputy chief, provide some further clarification. That would also allow the folks to come into compliance with their current permit, or if you want to kind of hold it in moratorium and let them continue to store the 100 or so vehicles there, it's your call, but I don't think there's any harm in really delaying it 2 weeks and letting us hear.
Yeah, when you stepped out, we talked about
Yeah.
pushing this to August 7th, which is our next meeting, to give time for the chief to talk to them and see if he's comfortable.
And given that the ZBA has already given the special permit for the 100, I wouldn't have any problem with saying it's okay to have 100 on the spot. I would ask you to get it down to 100, okay?
sure.
Yeah.
Agree, that's exactly right.
Okay.
I think it'd be an undue burden to have them remove 60 cars.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what we're saying is you're good at 100, try to get down to 100. We'll
But
get
you
on
don't
the-
have your license.
Yeah, we need to get the fire department to say that they're comfortable with what you have right now. And you're gonna be rescheduled for August 7th. Do you have a time right now, or do you wanna let them know?
I'll call him
Yeah.
Okay.
tomorrow.
And my suggestion is reach out to the chief or Deputy Chief Barry, and,
They're expecting your call.
okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll try to get it done at the next meeting.
Correct, I'll do that.
So procedurally, what do I have to make? A motion to,
Continue the hearing until August 7th.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing to August 7th.
Second.
Motion a second, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a public hearing, vote new wine and malt license for De Bovino Winery at 2255 Providence Highway, and vote Dominic Arpino, manager of record, and vote a common vic license. Jim, you want to?
Sure, motion to open the public hearing?
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Welcome.
Good evening.
Introduce yourself for the vast TV audience, please.
Sure. Al DiNapoli, 5 Swenson Circle in Walpole. We have an application before you for a beer and wine license for Di Bravino Winery LLC. It's a newly formed Massachusetts limited liability company. There's 6 members. 2 of us live in Walpole, 2 in Norwood and 2 in Foxborough. And one of the individuals who lives in Foxborough is also a lessor down at the site at 2255 Providence Highway in Walpole, which is where Millbrook Homes, a modular home company, presently has a site. There is a building in, say, the mid-range of that lot as you go back that had a tenant in both the left and the right-hand side. The tenant on the right-hand side has vacated. It is our intention to go into there and open up a wine operation where we will make wine. The 5 of us cousins have the 3rd generation of homemade winemakers. Our grandparents and our uncles have done this, and we've been doing this for years ourselves, and we thought it would be an opportunity to bring it commercially. And we certainly have the expertise in that, and we're in the process of putting the pieces together. So here before you now, and some of this is a timing situation, if you will, because we're applying for a beer and wine license, but at the same time, we have an application with the TTB, the federal agency that regulates farm and wineries, for a farm winery license. That's going to take a bit of time, and once we get approval there, we will have to come before this board again for approval of a farm winery license as opposed to the beer and wine license we're applying for now. And then that too will go up before the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission as the application here, after you make your decision, if you approve it, will go before the ABCC. So there will be months, if you will, before we get final approval by the federal government and the state government to have a farm winery on site. In the meantime, we thought there'd be an opportunity, since there is a beer and wine license available, to make application for the beer and wine license. We cannot hold both licenses. So once we get final approval on the farm winery license, which again is a process that will take months to get to that point, we will have to surrender the beer and wine license. But in the interim, we thought since there was one available, we would make application. We could start the build-out process of going forward with our plans up there, and we could use the spot for service of predominantly wine, but it's a beer wine license, and some people maybe not want wine would come in with someone, groups of people who like wine and want a beer instead, and use it as an educational process to show them what winemaking process is about, and so start that whole process of bringing people in and getting them to understand what we'll be doing at the Di Bravino Winery. So that's why we have this application in front of you now. Once we if we get approval, we will start the build-out process there. There will be a tasting room, both in the front and the back. There'll be a production room where the wine will be made, and then there will be a patio area around that we're applying for. That's on the plan, and obviously that's seasonal, to have some tables out there for people to sit. And in the back, at one point, once we start the production, we will have to put a trailer that will keep the product refrigerated at about 65 degrees. So that's our plan, and I have with you Dominic Arpino, who we're asking to be appointed as the manager of record, who will be the main person who will be there most of the time. He is tip certified, we are all in the process of getting tip certified. I understand personally the obligation of holding a alcohol beverage license. I have been representing restaurants, hotels, cruise lines, you name it, in Massachusetts for almost 30 years now, before licensing commissions, Board of Selectmen across the state, getting liquor licenses or addressing concerns that they might have. So I understand the rules and regulations and the extreme responsibility it is in holding a alcohol license to serve in a municipality. And to stress that with the rest of the members in the LLC. I know that there was a neighbor who had some concerns. I've never met Gail and Carl Weinstein, but I did speak to them today. I believe they said they may be here. I tried to address some of the issues, and if they are present, they may address their own, but I tried to address the issues that they had. And most of them were noise-related issues because they were a butter in the back of the site. And I can answer questions or wait to hear if there's any questions from the public.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. DiNapoli now before we ask Dominic to come up?
I'm gonna hold on my questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, I'll hold.
Okay. How about if we have Dominic come up and just say a couple words?
Sure.
And then I'll open it up if there's anybody in the room that has any comments.
Hi, good evening. Dominic Arpino, Norwood, 206 Rock Street, Norwood, Mass. And I am the manager of Reckitt for the facility that we're hoping to open in a few months from now.
Great. You know, one of the things that Mr. DiNapoli was talking about is we take liquor licenses very serious in Walpole. We've had a couple of situations where, you know, bars, restaurants have misused their license, sold underage. We had one on Route 1 that violated over and over and over and over again. And we did pull their license twice. So, you know, we encourage, you know, new bars, restaurants, a winery, I think is a good idea. But we want you to take it very seriously that a liquor license is a valuable tool. And, you know, we don't want to see any violations. So, you know, as Mr. DiNapoli said, do whatever you have to do to make sure that, you know, things are well run, have the machine that reads the cards. You know, do everything that you can do, because it won't be pretty if you violate. And, you know, I'm assuming you won't, but I just wanted to be on record that we've had a lot of trouble with an establishment on Route 1, a lot of trouble. And, you know, we wouldn't want to see that happen with you. So, any questions for Dominic?
What's in the building today? This is an existing building, correct?
It's on the right-hand side is a side that's been vacant, and right now it's vacant. I know they've been painting the front room, the back area where the production area is. It's totally vacant. There's nothing in there except for maybe some brooms and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So there's nothing in there right now?
That is correct.
Okay. Again, I'll hold. I'd like to hear some public comment first.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, where exactly is it located on Route 1?
It's a mile and a quarter from the Gillette Stadium as you proceed south. So it's on the right-hand side, across from Funland. I think there was a
Yeah, Funland.
Oh, across from Christina's?
right across.
Yes, yep.
Oh, so that's Walpole and that side of it?
Yes, yeah. Our side is Walpole.
Yes.
They're on the right side of the road going toward
that's
Foxborough.
correct.
That's Walpole, so.
I mean, it sounds like a great location to me. So the idea from Mr. DiNapoli is start off with sort of a social type of atmosphere, sell beer, wine tastings, and then once you get your federal, say farming license, but vintners type of thing, to expand it to something, evolve into something a little different.
Yes, at that point, we would like to teach the public how to make wine. So that's the main thrust of this endeavor.
Did Walpole, I'm sorry, this question is not for you, it's for the chairman, just a general question. Did we acquire an additional alcohol license, or did someone?
We went through legislation a year ago, maybe.
No, longer.
No, he's turning, but he's using his.
This is an existing license.
That's what I'm asking.
Ravens, Vine, they turned in their beer and wine and got an all alcohol.
Okay.
So that's the one they're using.
So this is an available license, not one of the new ones via legislation?
not-
Okay,
That was about 3 or so years ago.
okay.
So
Are we requesting any additional
there's still
licenses?
5
We,
that are sitting out
we
there.
requested through legislation a few years ago, new licenses. The idea was on Route 1
2 for
with the
Route
new
1,
development
3
downtown.
downtown.
And those have not been pulled yet. So I think as more development happens, they're
They're
available
available for
for new
applicants
projects.
to come in?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
I'm just going to go, is there anybody here that would like to speak about this project? Please come up. Thank you, Dominic.
That's that prefab that's right there. They sell it on spec, but like Christina's is right deal driving range, so. It's a good location.
Hi, please introduce yourself.
My name's Gail Weinstein. I live on the property
Welcome.
that they're looking for. I don't have an objection to selling wine and having a winery in the area. What you have to understand, and I know you asked where this piece of property is, do you know where the village groomer is?
Yes.
So you pass the village groomer, and what originally was Landscape Depot went in several years ago, under the premise that they were going to sell flowers, shrubs, maybe some Christmas trees, and mulch. What we got was the Milliken prefab home up on the left, and straight ahead was a building. I don't know what they used the building for. It was probably for part of what they were selling and doing, fireplaces and whatever. The property, as they said, goes off to the right. That goes behind that strip mall where the village groomer is, that abuts our properties back there. It became a dumping ground for Landscape Depot. Mr. Norton was up there. I had him there about a year ago because of the 30-foot pile of trash that was coming in, toilets, cars, all kinds of road construction, everything. It's been dumped. I do have pictures of it from my side of the property and on their side. Apparently, they have moved out all of the front-end loaders that were moved stuff. It's still piled. They've got 2 piles of Jersey barriers. They put in big blocks where they have put more stuff. They've cleared some of the area. What I'm looking for is that piece of property to be cleared. Walpole has not done anything to look and see what these people did up there. That's my objection. We have listened to front-end loaders pushing the land over the barriers, into the back, the trees falling, everything. It is just obscene what they did to that piece of property. You have the village groomer that's been there for years. What they did is they put an enclosure. When the dogs come up, they put them outside, so they're barking all day. We know living abutting Route 1, that we're going to have traffic from the stadium when you have concerts and you have other things. What we're looking for are the owners of that property, before this license is granted, clean it up. You drive in, and I drove in there today, what they did is they put up a facade of a white greenhouse. It was never there before. So that's to mask when you drive in, off to the right, what is down on the side. Take a drive up. Drive into where the village groomer is. You don't have to go on their property. I never went on the property. I went along the back, along where the fence is, took the pictures of all of that's there. That's what I'm asking for. Clean the property before you rent it. Yes, I would love to taste your wine. I have no objection to any of that going there. But I believe that if you're going to present the community of Walpole, that needs to be a clean environment up there for people to sit outside, because it's going to be there. They want to put a refrigerated truck, and I talked to Mr. DiNapoli. My concern is about that refrigerator going all the time, 24/7. What kind of noise is that going to bring? It probably won't be that bad, but if that is a nice area and it's clean, no objection. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I appreciate it.
Could, Mr. DiNapoli, could I ask you a couple questions? So are you leasing the entire site, or are you leasing the building? How does that work?
No.
I've been by the building, I've never, it sounds like the parking lot goes back and then to the right. I've never been back in that corner.
We're
so-
subleasing
Okay.
from Millbrook, which leases from the owner.
Okay,
So we're just subleasing that half
That
of the
one piece,
building
yep.
and some of the site around it. So
Okay.
we won't be, we will be responsible for our portion.
yep,
Don't really have any responsibility for the rest of it. Of course, we'd like it to be as presentable as possible, and I I talked to Ms. Weinstein today, and since we spoke, we did some research about compressors, if you will, in refrigerated trucks, because I know we're concerned. I mean, I think the back of the lot is like 200 feet, 191 feet to the plot line. So I'm thinking the noise won't be, bad. But I did some research on refrigerated trailers, as did Dominic, and we understand that, one, because they'll be running electrical and they're not diesel, because we have to put a 3 amp, is it 3 amp? Three-phase system in, that it will be running on electrical. So it's less noisy, first of all, than a diesel kind of compressor. Since we're only bringing the fruit down to a 65-degree, not freezing, it won't be something that will be constant or have a lot of pressure on the compressors to work really hard. And that they have done a lot to make these trailers more soundproof with insulation. And so we're cognizant of it now. We're going to address that as we go forward in making sure that when we look at these, we're getting the most efficiently noise-wise, so that we don't have that run into that problem. Otherwise, as I spoke to Ms. Weinstein, the production is, a couple times a year there'll be a truck bringing a load of grapes in, and that will be it. There's a bladder press, which is basically a hydraulic, and it just presses the grapes, and then an auger releases the waste, if you will, into a bit that we'll have to remove. Aside from that, there's not a lot of heavy-duty equipment with pounding or anything going on. So.
And I appreciate that you reached out and you've had communication, because that's always the best way to resolve any issues that may come up. So
we always want to work with people, and that's my goal. It always has been.
Any questions for Al? Or any questions in general?
So it seems like Ms. Weinstein would had her concern, might be your concern too, in terms of beautification, not having it ugly back there. My opinion, I don't think that the trash issue should be connected to the granting of the license issue, but I do think it is a legitimate separate issue, and I don't know how we address that with the property owner or the lessee. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
I would agree with you. I don't think it's tied to the license request. Since Dave Norton is here, I would ask Dave if he would come back up again. Dave, have you been back there lately? How bad is it?
Not lately. I haven't been, so I can't really address how she put it. I know they took some stuff out of there when the company removes themselves, but I'll have to go back there again, take another look, and then talk to the property owner, because now it's on him.
Okay. That would be great if you could go take a look at
definitely.
that. Again, I've never been back there. I've driven by,
right.
So I don't have any
I'll
recollection.
I'll take a look tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Jim?
Yeah, and so, Dave, I appreciate that. I'd like something a little bit more than that,
Sure.
though, because I think, Ms. Weinstein has come before us with, sounds like a very legitimate request. If you were to go there and find the conditions as described earlier, what does the town, what do we as a town, what can we do about that?
Well, technically, usually, I'll go to the property owner first, have a discussion with him.
Yeah.
See if he's going to remove the stuff without having to go as far as a violation notice. Because once I write a violation notice, then he has 30 days to remove it, et cetera, et cetera. And if he doesn't, then I have to bring him to court. And obviously, we don't want to do that. I mean, obviously, it's a local property owner. But, I mean, if I have to, I have to.
So I don't know what process we follow to make sure that happens, but as an outcome of the discussion, and I agree we should not tie it to the license. That makes no sense. But I also feel as though someone has come before us with a legitimate complaint, and I want to make sure that we follow through on that.
Just a suggestion?
Yeah.
So maybe David could go out, visit the property under the next TA updates in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just provide the board with an update. Here's were the findings. It was well received, or maybe it wasn't so well received. These are the next steps we're going to take. Just since it was brought up, I'll cover it under that. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, and could we get back to Mrs. Weinstein with an update so that she knows where we've gotten to and what where the conversation is, okay?
And Cindy is saying we have her phone number, so yes.
So, Mrs. Weinstein, did you hear that? So,
Yes, I did.
Dave?
I do have pictures. This is not.
You can give those to Dave.
I think Dave got them. Did I send them to you last year before you went up?
Well, the first time when I actually was out at her house. I actually walked from her yard back in there.
We're not talking just trash, we're talking, I don't want, I can show you, this is,
Do you have the pictures? So,
I do.
no, I was talking to, so,
This was what I showed you, this is from my
Shouldn't have
property.
come to this point.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is going up
Someone
behind
will report
there,
back to you.
okay. So,
so.
Yeah, I have the beginning ones. I don't have
Yeah,
the
we-
second
So
ones.
what they did was,
we,
they
Well,
so,
put some.
well, if I-
hold
if I
on for
may,
1 second.
since-
We have to keep moving on, so.
Right.
Dave's gonna go check that out tomorrow. If you wanna send Dave the photos, that would be
Give me my
great.
card again, so just, yeah.
Dave's
send me those
gonna-
photos. I'll go out,
See what it
and then
looks
I'll
like.
call you.
There is some clearance, but it is.
Mrs. Weinstein, so Dave's gonna give the town administrator an update. So at our next meeting, we'll hear what the outcome was, or if there's an enforcement action.
ongoing.
So we just want you to know that, we
That's
wanna
what
see that
happened, is
resolved.
that all of that it has to make Walpole look good.
Mm-hmm.
If I drove up there, and I lived in Norwood and worked in Norwood for almost 40 years, I would not want to drive into Walpole and drive up there and see that on the side going in for wine tasting.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't look good. It's been like this for a while. They say that these people have vacated, that's why the front end loaders are gone. That's why they've cleared some of the area, but they've
Correct.
pushed and pushed, and now it's double the Jersey barriers.
All right, so
Okay.
let's
Yeah.
do that, and we'll see what the outcome is.
Absolutely.
And we'll
All right.
keep an eye on that, so,
All right,
thank you,
thanks.
appreciate that. Anyone else? Al, did you have something else to add?
No.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to the public hearing? Then, Jim, you want to make a motion?
Sure,
Close
motion to
public hearing.
close the public hearing,
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. and then I'll make a motion to approve the wine and malt license for Di Bavino Winery located at 2255 Providence Highway, and approve Dominic Arpino as the manager of record and the common vittler's license.
I'll second that for discussion. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We wish you good luck.
Thank you. We'll see
Sounds
you
like a
again.
great
Thank you for
idea.
your time.
Let us know when you're opening,
Yeah.
and we may come down and check it out. Next up is a vote the request of Bob LeBlanc to use cemetery perpetual care funds to perform new asphalt paving at the Maple Grove Cemetery in the amount of $30,000. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Bob LeBlanc. I'm the Town of Walpole Cemetery Superintendent. Just a brief overview of the Walpole Cemetery Department. Walpole Cemetery Department has, in the cemeteries in Walpole, 3 active cemeteries, and there are 3 non-active cemeteries that are historical. There are 20 acres dedicated to burials in Walpole, the Walpole Cemetery Department, and approximately 4 acres that are undeveloped. We have 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time seasonal employee. We average about 50 burials per year. The work performed at the cemeteries includes all aspects of the burial interments, excavation of graves and foundations for monuments, turf grass maintenance, fertilization, weed control, shrub pruning, winter snow operations, fall leaf collection, and mulch bed maintenance. Cemetery crew also performs periodic maintenance of those grave lots that are in need of attention, such as power washing of the monuments, shrub removal, if requested and as needed. The equipment in the cemetery department consists of 1 full-size 1-ton dump truck, 1 3/4-ton utility truck, 2 large ride-on lawnmowers, 2 walk-behind lawnmowers, various handheld tools and equipment. All equipment and maintenance are done within the cemetery department by the staff. All aspects of cemetery maintenance are done with in-house labor, with the exception of tree removal, stump grinding, and large-scale asphalt paving projects. Tonight I come to you as the cemetery superintendent to ask you as the commissioners for the approval of funding for repairs to the infrastructure. The cemetery department, specifically at the Maple Grove Cemetery, is in need of some asphalt paving. I've done some calculations on the square yardage for the requirements, and the cost associated with the paving at the Maple Grove Cemetery is $30,000. I've checked with our town treasurer, Marilyn Thompson, and she has indicated to me that there is $93,294 available for expendable money towards perpetual care for this type of infrastructure improvements in the cemeteries. So as the cemetery superintendent, I would ask the cemetery commissioners to approve the request for perpetual care usage for this purpose.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions for Bob?
Quick comment.
Jim, sorry.
Generally, during the capital budget process, cemetery always submits something similar. Sometimes it's maybe a wall, sometimes it may be stone repair. The capital budget considers it, thanks them, but it's not considered by town meeting because the town meeting does not approve these specific funds. So I believe it was presented this year. They liked it, they thought it was a good use. Timing seems to sync up with all the paving that we're doing around here, so that's why Bob's before you now. But I just wanted to let you know they've considered it in the past.
Thanks. Any questions for Bob? Ian?
A comment.
Sure, go ahead.
It sounds like a tremendous amount of work is done to maintain our cemeteries, and it shows.
Thank you.
They're just, considering what they are, they're a beautiful view when people are driving by, so I just want to commend you for, it definitely shows they're beautiful cemeteries. Do you know the fees that are charged for the services?
Mm-hmm.
Have those been brought up to current, have we looked at them lately, and how do they compare to other cemeteries? And I'm not suggesting that we increase them, I'm just curious as to how it fits in, because I imagine the fees go into these special accounts.
Correct.
To be used for exactly what you're asking for.
So the last time we did a review of both the fee structure and also of the cemetery rules and regulations was 2011. A new document was produced and this board approved it. But at that point in time, we decided that we would not adjust the fee schedule. We did do a survey at that point in time, and Walpole is without a doubt below some of our surrounding towns as far as what we charge for fees. Pretty regular basis, the funeral directors will say to me, you know, you guys should be charging more for what you're doing out there. So it's been 8 years. It might be an opportunity if the board, at the pleasure of the board, to do some type of a survey and maybe come back and see if that would be favorable.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a difficult time for families to come up with a lot of money anyways for a funeral, so not that you'd want to put an undue burden, but if they're so low that it doesn't, considering all the work that's done to maintain them all the time, and it comes out of our municipal budget as opposed to supplementing it with additional fees. I think, who would you revisit the fee structure? Or you would appoint somebody?
Yes, I would call and do a survey, and then I would certainly present it to the commissioners, and we could probably find a common ground, or maybe if there was something that we wanted to achieve, we could target that.
I think that sounds like
I
a
like
good idea.
that.
If it's been 7 years, it's probably worth doing it. You know, obviously not your highest priority, but you know, if you could get back to us in
Absolutely.
a couple of months, whatever you thought it would take, I think that'd be great.
Thank you. I'm in full support of everything. I just feel like you do so much work, it should be demonstrated through people, I think people paying a little bit more to
Sure.
show that.
Jim, any questions?
No, I agree with the idea to go ahead with the survey, Bob, so look forward to what you find out, and echo Ann's comments. You guys do a wonderful job. The cemeteries look beautiful.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the use of the cemetery perpetual care funds for asphalt paving at Maple Grove Cemetery in the amount of $30,000.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Let's see, next up, vote request of Regan Milani to be appointed as a regular member to the Conservation Commission. Did I butcher your name too
No,
badly?
not
or-
at all. You said it perfectly.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
impressed.
Why don't you introduce yourself and,
So I'm Regan Milani, and I grew up in Walpole and moved away, but moved back. I've been here about 4.5 years, and I've been more and more interested in getting involved in the community, being a real active member of the local community. I hold a master's in environmental science and management, including courses in hydrology and wetland science. And for the last year, I've been working for the town of Norton as their Conservation Commission secretary. So I've learned a lot about the Wetland Protection Act, and so I'm interested in serving our town here. So I'm respectfully asking for your appointment to the commission.
right, any questions?
This resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Before we vote, I would just say I appreciate your applying and volunteering for the town of Walpole. A lot of people have heard me say it over and over again, but I think that the quality of a town is often helped a lot by the volunteers who get out in the community and do different things, and I really do appreciate it. I know the board really appreciates all our volunteers who do different things for the town, so.
Yes, well, thank you as selectmen for doing all the work that you do, because it's a tremendous amount of work. So, and I know you guys are volunteers as well, basically.
Yeah,
So
that's why
thank
we're
you.
always looking for more volunteers to do more.
Spread the wealth, yes, okay, thank
All
you
right,
so much.
Jim, you want to make a motion?
Sure. I will move that we appoint Regan Milani as a regular member to the Conservation Commission.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And you do have to get signed in.
Sworn
So
in at
you
the
can do that
close.
right, sworn in, you could, they probably just closed, so.
No, she has to wait till I send her a letter.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
Alright.
jumping the gun.
Term and everything.
Okay, thanks Cindy for
Sure, no problem.
keeping us on the straight and narrow.
They wouldn't swear.
Since we're running a little late, open forum, was it 7:40? Is anybody here for open forum? Nope, okay, moving on. Discuss and vote whether or not to increase the membership of the Walpole Housing Partnership Committee. Ian, this is something you brought up, and let's go.
Thank you. Could I just make a comment?
Sure, go ahead, go right ahead.
I think it's important because, not only because we were allowed to expand it to 11, but I think my guess would be that the intent, whoever designed it, the committee to go up to 11, would be because they wanted to have as many viewpoints as possible on the committee. So that's why I am for increasing it from 7 to at least 9, perhaps 11. I see Mr. Flowers' comments that maybe start off increasing it by 2 and go to 11. I myself don't see anything wrong with expanding it to 11 now, because it doesn't mean that they're all going to be filled. In looking at the mix of sort of demographics that they want, when I say they, I think the writers of
Their charge,
the
yeah.
charge. It really does require a lot of different people from different walks of life and different age groups and demographics and career paths. So I would like to see it increased to 11. I would not have agita if it was increased to 9. I agree with Andrew Flowers' point about it should be an odd number. That's all I have to say.
Okay, and I sort of took to heart what you said at the last meeting when you gave us the handout, and also what Mr. Flowers talked about. So I would, if we could round out the skills that are on the current board, I think that would be a good thing. And 2 of them jumped out at me, 3 of them jumped out at me especially. One was to have somebody living in affordable housing. And I think that's important to have that point of view. One of the other items in the charge was to have a senior or seniors, somebody specifically involved somehow with the Council on Aging, which I think is also a great thing. And then veterans in general. I know we have at least 1, maybe 2 veterans there, but can't hurt to have a little more veteran experience. And then as I look through the individual skills, some of them we had multiple people that had those skills, but one of the areas that we seem to be weak on is land use experience. You know, PBC, zoning, Concom, just experience with zoning, because I think one of the issues that could come up over time with a production plan is zoning. How should it change or should it not change? And then there were other suggestions of maybe clergy, somebody who's a real estate agent. I think there's some real estate experience there. An educator was an option, a business leader, a banker. So I'd be personally willing to go for I'd probably want to go to 9 first before 11, but especially if we could, get a few more skills in there, and really make an effort to, especially somebody living in affordable housing, that's going to be a unique viewpoint that most of us just don't have. So, Jim, did you have a?
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised a valid point there. First of all, just to start back with the fundamental 7 to 9 or to 11, the bigger committees get, it's been my experience, the more unwieldy they become. And at some point you reach a point where committees can be too big. Deferring to Andrews as the chairman of the committee, his point of view is, look, maybe 7 to 9 is a good thing to do. So I think I could get behind adding a couple. Now, to the point on qualifications, and what are we trying to actually get on this, this committee so that we get a wide range of ideas represented? I think it's a good idea for us to get specific about what we're looking for. And in the original charge, I think we did call some of those specific items out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't have it with me, but.
I did bring a copy of what Ann gave last week, which I know is the charge, so, or last meeting.
Which is where then you just pulled out the words you just used, so I won't restate these words. But since you went through the effort in the last board to prepare the makeup, and you obviously put a lot of thought into it, it would seem to me that we should be asking ourselves, then what are the gaps in the current committee? And let's try to find, and who knows if we can, that's a whole different question, but let's try to find people who then could fill those gaps so that we, you know, fulfill what was the original charge by last year's board. So that would be my view. I don't know what our process would be to, I guess we would vote to expand first off, but then would we post this in some fashion?
Yeah, I know that there's a few people have applied, even though there weren't any openings. But I think we would want to repost and emphasize, you know, whatever, again, I gave you my opinion, but whatever areas we're really looking for to round out that group.
Yeah.
And then, you know, realizing that when we appointed the original 7, some are on a 1-year term, some are on a 2-year term, some are on a 3-year term.
Right.
So there'll be turnover next, whenever the April, so.
Because looking at, I mean, looking at the current makeup, there's not a lot of diversity.
No, there's a lot of repeated skill sets, so I
Skill sets
would
and
agree with that.
philosophical viewpoints that are, one philosophical viewpoint seems to be overrepresented as opposed to, like you say, from a different demographic or need.
Yeah, so I could get behind, and especially knowing that we're gonna have some people rotating off, I could get behind expanding it from 7 to 9. I would be opposed to going to 11 at this point. But I would like to see us follow a good, tight process that says, here's what we're really trying to find. And again, it assumes we can. Who knows whether we will or not. But these are the skills we're looking to find to fill, you know, what we see as the gaps in the current committee based on the original makeup. And I could get behind that.
So would it be out of order to say that would like one of those two, assuming we go to 2, one of those 2 be somebody who lives in affordable housing? I think that's a very unique point of view. I don't want to force my idea on everybody, but.
I like the idea. Again, it's a question of will we get someone,
I don't know.
okay?
Yeah.
But if we wanted to put emphasis on that, given the nature of the work this committee is doing, that sounds really sensible to me. Okay.
So maybe it could be an emphasis rather than a.
Right, because we don't want to, right.
That would be fine, I'd be comfortable with an emphasis.
Right, and just as a question about that, and I'm not suggesting that we do this, but someone may not be living in affordable housing, but could be in that demographic of need, you know, a lower socioeconomic situation. So I agree.
Okay.
It's a diverse viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yep,
That
yeah,
is
exactly,
needed.
that's what's needed. Okay, so how about if we make a vote to increase the board to 9? We'll repost it with emphasis on the skills or areas we're looking for to round out the board. And then,
And going forward, I think as these seats are up, we
well, I was just
continue
gonna
on
say,
that path,
for
like you
next
say, right?
April, we could take another look at what skills are we looking for.
Right.
And
Keep
try
the
to
charge.
keep the diversity of what the board is with the next set of appointments in April, so.
And I think without getting overly specific, just a reference to the makeup that was in the original charter.
Sure.
Seems to cover all of those skills you called out earlier, Mark, so.
And you have all that, so.
I do, yeah.
And it makes it easier for applicants, because they can look at that, and if that's their skill set
Right.
or their sort of niche,
Yeah.
that's what they can sort of hang their hat on.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
You want to make a formal motion, or
Sure, I'll
is there a
move.
motion already on the sheet, or? Go ahead.
So
just
I'll
straightforward.
start with the motion. Motion to increase the membership of the Walpole Housing Partnership Committee to 9 members. Position to be posted following regular process with emphasis on qualifications as laid out in the makeup of the original charge from the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, Cindy. If you'll take
Thank
care
you.
of that for us, that'd be great. Vote approval of proposed sign for the Walpole Police Department. So, first of all, let me say, we did another site visit today. There's a construction meeting over there every Tuesday. Then we walked into the building. So if either of you would like to go on a tour, pretty much every Tuesday, oh, Jim went today, sorry. We pretty much go in every Tuesday, if you're available on a Tuesday, or we can find another day. But I think it's always great to get in the building before it's open.
Right.
It's coming along really well, and I'm glad we're at the point of thinking about signs, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I like this sign, so.
So, just a kind of introduction on this thing. This was approved as part of the billing process for the police station. The police department, along with, led by Chief Carmichael, did some reach out to the neighbors. I initially brought this up about a month or two to the Board of Selectmen, but we wanted to make sure the neighborhood was comfortable with it, that the building commissioner Norton was comfortable with it. We've gotten positive feedback. Some of our partners with the Council on Aging, we just asked for some input, and they like the idea of a sign at the corner of South and Common to just let people know. Right now we have a 2x2 foot sign that says police station with an arrow. This will just draw some more attention, allow the police department to update the community on some of the events that might be happening, and that's where we're at. Chief, anything good?
I know, you can come up if you want, but I know you had a community meeting, and you bounced it around with some of the people in the neighborhood, and everybody seemed to like it, so that was a good thing.
Thank you. Obviously, we're very cognizant of the fact that we're in a neighborhood now and no longer in the center of town. So what we did is we're trying to be maintaining constant contact with the neighborhood. We've assigned a liaison. Officer Slavin is the neighborhood liaison from the department to the neighborhood. And we were able to meet with a group of probably 20, 25 people. We did show them the concept of the sign and where it would go and what it looks like and all that stuff, and I think there was a lot of support for it, especially due to the fact the way the specific sign works, we were able to control it from the police station, so we can handle and do the messaging directly from there. We can control the lighting, we can dim it at night, we can do all that kind of thing. So I think there was a lot of support for it, and as you can see, the concept is very nice and it will look really nice at that location.
Great. Any questions for the chief or Jim?
No questions, a comment. I mean, the sign looks terrific. It looks like it's got some kind of an electronic component to it. So
Yeah,
you use that for
you have
messaging and so forth?
If you look at the sign there, obviously our address is 50 South Street and then Walpole Police Department. It also has the South Street Center on the bottom part of the sign. And we did mention Walpole Cooperative Bank because they were a sponsor of the senior center. So we thought that was a nice touch so that people know that not only is the police station there, but the senior center is down there. So yeah, we're very happy with it. Deputy Chief McKenzie did a lot of the work and the research on it, and this is what we came up with. So we can put any types of alerts or messages on there. You've probably seen the signboards that we move around. They're not very pleasing to the eye and everything, but they serve their purpose. But this here, I think, would be a nice touch to the police station, to the senior center, and give us the ability to put some messages out there, not just for us, but for everybody in town.
I think it looks great. Mark referenced the walkthrough we did earlier today, and the police station and of course the new senior center is coming along just beautifully. I did note the basketball court set up too, and I guess that's getting a lot of activity, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
yeah.
We've had kids there pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. Good, thanks.
yeah.
So you guys win, or do they?
No, we never win, but-
Okay. All right, Jim, you want to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to approve the sign as presented to the board.
That was simple. I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief.
Next item, vote approval of minimum requirement guide for dogs and shelters, and vote to add the selectmen's policies and procedures. Jim or Ann, whoever wants to jump in?
Sure, I'll start and you can jump in
Sure.
since you went ahead and drafted this. And, what we have here is some minimum guidelines for the policies and procedures as to how to handle animals when they come into the shelter. I gotta give some kudos to Ann, she did some great work. We had town council weigh in on this, animal control officer weighed in on this. They provided some feedback, but for the most part, it's with what Ian provided to us, so I'll hand it off to you.
I'd like to just say I am so happy and delighted that this is before us. I don't think it was intentional, but Walpole has been sorely lacking in a roadmap of how we treat animals that have been seized for whatever reason, lost animals. And I think that this minimum requirement guide is going to, it gives assurance to the town administrator, to the selectmen, to the animal control officer, and to dog owners in Walpole to know upfront what the rules are, that if their dogs are seized for cruelty, or if their dogs are lost, or a dangerous dog, what they can expect in terms of due process, date certains, and what the expectation that the town has of them. But it is more important that a dog owner knows that the town will take care of their animal. So I am delighted that this is here. So I thank you for doing all your hard work and giving it to town council and for your support.
Great. Jim, any questions or comments?
Only question is, so the temperature one, how are we going, I don't know what comfortable recommended setting is, or is it air conditioned, or what is that? What does that
Currently
actually
air
mean?
conditioned
It is air
down there.
conditioned,
There's a
okay.
heating system down there.
Yeah.
So it's kept at I leave that at the discretion of the animal
Got it,
control
yeah.
officer, but occasionally the MSPCA will stop in and just check up, and we've been, Ann and I have worked with Nadia, the local one in the area, on a few
Yeah.
different issues last year around this time, so whatever their standards are, I'm thinking in the 70-degree range or so.
Yeah,
Wanna-
and if
we
there's
wanna
any
keep the
questions, they
dogs
can,
comfortable.
the ACO can ask.
Okay.
I think we probably all would know what,
Yeah. I just wasn't clear on whether it was actually air conditioned and how you would actually control the exceed the heating, but, so that's good. I was actually surprised as I went through this that we didn't have this in place, in all truth. I mean, there's a lot of common sense stuff in here, and, general, fairness and humanity dictates this sort of thing. So Ann, thanks for, bringing this up and getting this landed. I think this is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think many towns don't often have something like this.
interesting.
It's just when an event happens and it brings it to your attention, then
Yeah.
you say, ooh, we need this. So
Interesting.
I don't think it was, I just think like anything, sometimes the time is right.
Great.
So I'll make a motion to approve the proposed minimum requirement guide for dogs in shelters and to add to the selectmen policies and procedures.
And I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Vote request of Loan Depot to use the town common on July 27th from 12 to 2 with a rain date of August 3rd. I'll just say I think it's a great idea. I know other people have done it in the past, so. Any questions or comments of the board?
None from me.
Ian?
No. It's very nice.
Jim?
Motion to approve the request from Loan Depot to use the town common on July 27th from 12 to 2 with a rain date of August 3rd.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I request to hold annual Cami 5K run and David 5K walk on November 10th, 2018. Any comments or questions? Cindy, you happy with all the paperwork?
Everything's happy, it's an annual event, the police, have no issues, so they're good.
Any other questions or comments? Jim?
Motion to approve the request to hold the annual Cami 5K run and David 5K walk on November 10th, 2018.
I'll second that. Ian,
Just
please.
one comment, I noticed that Paul Clarisi, the race director, his mom and a former RTM member passed away in January, so I'd like to recognize that.
Sure.
And I'm sure it'll be a very moving event for him this year.
Yep, that's great. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye. Award of bid contract 2018-21 Old Post Road School Roofing Project.
Sure.
To Leading Way Construction.
I would recommend favorable action to award bid contract number 2018-21 for the Old Post Road School roofing project to Leading Way Construction, with the base bid being $698 and 3 alternates totaling $841,870. The total appropriated for that at this past town meeting was $1,950,000. That was to cover basically the roofs, windows, and boilers at that school. So this is stage one kind of that. It was general and infrastructure, but those were the 3 main focuses. So I was pleased as to where that came in at. So.
I'm assuming this will get done this summer?
Donnie is trying to schedule it. That's why I had him push to get this on here.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I just, back to some of the discussion we had this morning, we said part of the great success we've had with the work that's been going on in the town lately is getting good quality contractors. That seems common sense, but it's true. So I assume we've done the proper due diligence in terms of references and are confident that this is in fact one of those contractors that will do a good quality job.
Yeah. Dawn has checked the references.
Right.
You know, lowest isn't always best.
Yeah.
We generally have to go with the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
In most cases, unless there's lots of red flags, bad references, that has to be talked to. And he's checked them out. He's comfortable with them at this point in time.
Good, okay, all set.
Great. Yep, Jim?
Motion to award bid contract number 2018-21 Old Post Road School Roofing Project to Leading Way Construction, not exceeding $841,870.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next up is award of bid contract 2018-17, non-exclusive lease of use of space at 41 Wagon Road for telecommunication system.
Again, this was approved at this past town meeting. We had one bidder on this particular item. It's AT&T. They're basically renewing their lease. They're off. We did have interest from another party, and the town meeting approval was specifically for this site. That party expressed interest on that site, so we may do another bid if that company still wants to pursue it. So we can have multiple, which we currently do. I know Verizon's on there. I know our radio equipment's on this tower. So if we have the ability to make more money off of this and take in more revenue, we are going to reissue that other bid on this specific site. So
just so people know, this is the water tower, right?
This is the water tower,
yeah.
Wagon Road. So I would recommend favorable action to award it to AT&T Mobility out of Framingham, Mass. With the initial term of 5 years and then 3 5-year options, total of 20.
Great. Jim?
I'll make a motion to award bid contract number 2018-17, non-exclusive lease for the use of space at 41 Wagon Road for telecommunications system purposes to AT&T Mobility for a term of 5 years with 3 5-year extension periods totaling 20 years.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next up is award of bid contract 2018-23, turf seed soil amendments, turf fertilizer, plant protectants.
Mr. Chairman, this is actually not a town meeting item. This is approved as part of the Parks Department yearly budget, and it's to treat the various turfs and fields in town. You'll see on the last page, second to last page here, looks like close to almost 20 different items here that he had the various vendors bid on. So he recommended favorable action to award to Harrell's LLC based in Auburn, Mass. And I know that he's worked with Harrell's before and he's been satisfied with the product.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments? Jim?
Motion to award bid contract number 2018-23 turf seed soil amendments, turf fertilizer, and plant protectants to Harrell's LLC.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Vote request to use Adams Farm by the Blue Hills Cycling Club on August 15th, 22nd, 29th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Cindy, are you happy with the paperwork?
Everything is in order.
And Adams Farm Committee approved this, right?
I always send it to Adams
Okay, I
Farm
assumed
first
that, but-
before it comes to you.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
I'll move that we approve the request to use Adams Farm by Blue Hills Cycling Club on August 15th, 22nd, 29th, from 5 to 8 p.m.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I do want to say, I think it's great that Adams Farm is being used for all these different things. I think it's great when people can get up there. They may go for a bike event, but then they'll see what it is and want to go back. So I think that's a great thing. Next up, we have a bunch of consent agenda items. We normally do these as a group. Jim, you want to read them off real quick? or-
Sure. We have a motion to approve the following consent agenda items. These are gift acceptances. James and Cecilia Judge, a Council on Aging gift, $50. The next one is Bird Middle School employees, another COA gift, $500. Lions Club Recreation Program scholarships, $500. Nature Works Landscape Recreation Program, $300. Ruth Ann Jordan Recreation Program scholarships, $100. And the Junior Women's Club of Walpole, WPD Junior, $650.
I'll second that. Before I run the motion, I do want to say a bunch of these were for Smiling Eyes, which I think is a great program where people make donations, and the Recreation Department can then give scholarships to kids who otherwise may not be able to afford. So I think it's an awesome program for the kids in the town that need a little bit of help, so that's a great thing.
And thanks to all those who donated.
Yep. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Town Administrator update?
Sure. So I'm sorry, I left this down the end of the hall, so I had to go run and get it. Just to run through this, I wanted to let the board know that I was informed by the superintendent yesterday that the school department's been shortlisted into the MSBA grant program. That means basically the MSBA officials come out, do a tour of the facilities. Last year, we were not shortlisted. However, the year before, I attended the site visit where they just visited the high school. This year, they seem more interested in the middle schools, and they expect to conduct the site visit sometime in September, October timeframe. Of course, the board's more than welcome to join those site visits. I'll let you know when I have some exact dates if you're interested in that one. Paving, as some of you may know.
Actually, before you go on off of that one, so I would like to participate in that as that date gets closer. And also, great news that we've been shortlisted, recognizing there's a long path to go here to actually get on the list, but getting shortlisted is the first step in the process, so that's great news.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Paving, as many of you know, North Street paving, actually the milling started today. The Route 109 milling is set to take place probably tomorrow. We may have some issues with some details for the officers later on in the week. It's my understanding that a lot of the off-duty Walpole police officers and surrounding police officers are attending the funeral in Weymouth. So the final paving, we were hoping was going to get done this week, but if we don't have the details, I think we have 5 or 6 officers on that. May have to wait till next week, but it is progressing. I was surprised when I was up there. They did as much grinding as they did in one day today. So after that, they're going to go to High Street, Common, Stone, Elm, Cascade, Thornell, and then likely move on to Fisher towards the end of the summer. They know we need to get into the Fisher School and finalize that before the school starts. That will be a mess if we don't do that. So they're progressing along. The engineering department and DPW are doing a great job overseeing everything there. And this North Street detour is a big project just because it diverts so much traffic in town. I was informed yesterday, I believe, that the town was granted the FEMA grant for the firefighter assistance grant, which is about $108,000. The federal portion is $98,790, and the town share is $9,800. The chief is planning on using the funds that were already approved as part of the new fire station. This is actually going to save us some money on the new fire station. We're only going to need to kick in $9,800, and I believe $35,000 was approved for this. So he is looking to get the ball rolling. He's already ordered the equipment, hoping that we would, not knowing that we were going to get this grant. So I am looking for the board's authorization to authorize the chief to accept the grant and for me to execute the contract. I know it's short notice, and generally, I just found out about this at 6 o'clock this evening. So that's what I'm looking for at this time. I know the chief is willing to come in, and he's a permanent building right now, but at a future date and update the board. But this is one of those opportunities I don't want to let the grant slip through our hands. So that's what I'm looking for at this point.
I think it's great that we've applied for the grant, and it's even nicer that we won it, so that's a good thing.
Do we vote on it now?
That's what I'm asking for.
Because it's it's one of those,
It's one of those, it's unforeseen, it's
unforeseen.
allowed.
Sure.
So I'd ask for the board's authorization to allow the town administrator to execute the firefighter assistance grant and authorize the chief to accept the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Town meeting, just a reminder, the warrant is set to close on August 21st. I plan on having an outline of some of the articles that I expect to come up. Obviously, I won't have all of them in by the next meeting on the 7th, but I would like to present the board with an outline of items that I expect to be coming up. I'd also like some input from you folks. If you say, Jim, we're not looking to do that this year, take that out, move this around. So I'd like to present that to you guys. The planning board articles, I know, I'll have a general idea of what they may be looking for. I could show you them, but I wouldn't ask you to vote on them or anything.
Sure.
Because they would still need a vote on them. So just a heads up on it. So if you have something, just let me know.
Will you also have a list of the capital items that are coming up?
Sure.
That we can start to look at? I know that's not the fall, it's the spring, but I think it's important that we start getting our minds wrapped around some of the capital stuff coming up.
Sure. About a few weeks ago, I sent out the 5-year plan to the department heads. I asked them to update, look it over, update the numbers, see if there's anything else on there. So that list from just this a few months ago is pretty up to date.
It is,
and
okay.
I'll be able to present that to you guys. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a quick sidebar, at some point, not for now, I mean, we gotta get through the fall town meeting first, but with the budget process coming up, it does strike me that we need to be putting our minds together on what our budget priorities are gonna be as we get into the next cycle. When you think about many of the pressing items that are upon us, I think the board needs to be having dialogue with those well ahead of the actual budget process so that we have our priorities well established.
Sure, that makes sense.
I don't know how we do that, a workshop or what, but whatever the preference of the board is, but I do think we should be having that conversation.
Totally
Okay.
fine with
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Great.
I welcome it.
Great, okay.
Okay. Dog complaint issue. As you may know, I believe all three of you know, we had an issue with the dog. We are familiar with the owner because back in December, with the exception of Jim, this board held a hearing for the owner of the dog at 915 East Street. The dog that was left, I believe the dog's name is Remy, has had 2 issues in June and July. Nancy reached out to me. I know she couldn't make it today. She would like to have the dog owner in. Some of you may feel the same way. It hasn't been deemed a dangerous dog yet, but I'm concerned. I spoke to the resident who's had the issue in June and July. It's the same person. Him and I talked today. And his question was to me, well, what needs to happen for you to determine this is a dangerous dog? Does it actually need to bite me or my children? I feel for this person. And
agreed.
there's a history there. I've talked to the officer who responded to the incident on Sunday evening. By the time the police had gotten there, the dog was back in the yard. But it's my understanding the dog had gone off to this other residence who's a couple of doors down, and there's issues there. I've tried reaching out to the owner. The 2 of the phone numbers that we have on file, neither one of them worked today. There were a few other phone numbers that Cindy was able to find for me. I'm gonna just basically go down the list of phone numbers we have for her. And worst case, we'll do a certified letter and request her to come in here.
Jim?
And isn't the dog supposed to be on a leash?
He is supposed to be on a leash. and
So at a minimum, while it may not be able to designate the dog as violent, there's at least the issue of the dog's not on the leash, and that's one of our bylaws.
Yes.
So there must be some way to utilize that to,
Chief Carmichael and I spoke about this today, and he is going to, his police officers are allowed to, they generally don't do this, but we generally don't have repeat offenders, issue citations. He's gonna start to have the officers, even if it's without the dog officer responding, issue those citations. I've asked John to issue the citation. If it was appropriate for the June incident, I have to follow up, and Henry is our alternate dog officer. He was on duty on Sunday night, and I'm waiting for a response back from him as to whether or not he issued a citation. So more to come on
all
this.
right,
But
thanks.
Ian?
So here we go again with the same issue. My feeling about this is the dog owner rents a property from someone who owns the property. Have we made an attempt to reach out to the property owner and advise the property owner of the situation and the exposure that the property owner has? Because I think if that is done, if the property owner is someone who cares about his or her exposure, I would think that they would put up a fence, or, because they ultimately are going to be held responsible if this dog bites somebody and there's a lawsuit.
So I do know who the property owner is. We have a relationship with him. I did put a phone call in today. I was just gonna actually stop into his place of business tomorrow and see if we could have a discussion, because it is a liability for him.
I think I think it would benefit the landlord to be made aware of the dire situation.
And I think we'd all hate to see a kid especially, or anybody get bitten by a dog, and, you know, it's at least the second case we know of in the last 2 months. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there were others where
Because-
nobody called.
Right. I mean, it's evident, and it's been proven and demonstrated over the course of the last year that the dog owner is seemingly incapable of keeping the dog in the house at all times, and there's no fence on the property. So I think we need to put the burden on the, you know, there is a tenant, sort of like an agent principal relationship there. So I think that the property owner is ultimately held responsible for that dog's behavior, not just the dog owner.
So I guess the question is, do we wanna ask the dog owner to come in, or do we wanna go a little bit further and see if something can be
Or both.
done, or both?
I'd like to pursue both options. Invite the dog owner in, but also I'm gonna work on the property
owner.
owner
Okay.
and see if something else that could be done.
Great.
Because not only do we not want to be put in a position, we don't want to see anyone harmed, but we were in a very awful position last year. We
Yep,
had to make a
agreed.
decision on euthanizing a dog, which no one wants to see done, but it's often, many times, the right thing to do. But it really puts, you know, we have to,
Yep.
that was a very,
I actually reached out to the woman today who took the dog. and,
how,
You know,
is-
I
is-
haven't heard back from her. I did ask her, you know, what are your thoughts on this? Are you familiar with the dog owner? Do you still know her? So I'm trying to use all angles here.
right.
Great,
Okay.
good follow-up.
Okay, sewer and water, just an FYI, the commissioners voted to go with block rate billing. This is something we've talked about for a few years. The first bills won't be issued until about August, because they're still doing the FY18 billing, but most residents will see a reduced rate, reduced bill for their August bills. Liz Barrows, who I believe was out in the audience earlier today, she reached out to me looking to have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen to discuss traffic restrictions for Union Street. This is not just a result of the proposed Moore Street lot down in Norwood, which Bach is looking to put some parking down there. She said it's kind of been growing over time. I suggested, why don't you meet with myself, the police department, town engineering, to see exactly what you're proposing to determine if it's legal, instead of having her come in here, ask you guys, and you guys send it back out. So I'm trying to, I'm anticipating that her and she said she has about 40 or so other residents who are interested in this. They'll eventually come before the board. I did ask her, maybe 7 or 8 of them could come in with the various department heads. We could talk this through and then come forward. If it's what she is proposing is legal, she believes it might be, see if we can do something there. So more to come on this. I just wanted to
Yeah, I
let
think
the
that's
board know.
potentially a very bad situation for those neighbors back there, so.
Yeah. I've heard some rumors that the application's been pulled from Moore Street too, so it's not a dead issue in Norwood either, so, okay.
Great.
Two last items before I get into the Foxborough train. Attached, you will find the retirement notice from DPW Director O'Brien. He's given me his official notice. He intends to retire towards the end of August. He and I are finalizing a final date yet. Bob has served the community really well. I believe he was hired in 1996. He has hired some great superintendents to work around him. He's well-deserved in this one, and more to come, but I just wanted to let the board know. As far as the search process, I'll continue to keep you in the loop. The board does need to ratify whatever choice I push forward, which I'll keep you guys going. If we can do some in-house promotion, I think we have some qualified people who are currently working for us who might be up for the challenge, but more to come. I haven't even posted the position. As you see, I just got this within the last week, so, okay.
I know Bob's not leaving yet, but I
Yeah.
do wish him well, so,
Yeah.
he has done a lot for the town of Walpole over a long period of time, so.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, that's a long tenure for any job, and retirement well-deserved, Bob.
Yeah. Okay, and the last item, Foxborough train. You'll see a long two-page update as to a bunch of questions that I proposed, mostly coming from a lot of the residents in the South Walpole, Shufelt, Spring Street area, Oak Street area, Audubon, relating to everything from, would you be willing to come in for another community meeting? The answer was no. Would you be willing to place some type of buffer around the areas to alleviate some of the noise concerns? The answer is no. They are willing to add some fencing to not only the Oak Street area, Audubon area, Spring Street area, but now they've agreed to Shufelt. Originally, they said they didn't know about Shufelt. I still share a lot of the concerns as far as the vibrations with the foundations, the pools, whatever else may be back there. So it's not much. It took them almost 2 months to respond to these basic questions, and that was after I reached out to Representative Dooley, Senator Feeney, Representative Rogers and Kafka and McMurtry to put the pressure on them because they weren't responding. So the more things change, the more they stay the same with this one. Best we can do is try to keep working for them, advocate for these items listed here, because a lot of the neighbors are feeling like they're just not heard in this case. I'm going to post this on the website under our our MBTA section, just so they know that we're trying here, but they're steamrolling this thing through.
This is disgusting. Their response and their attitude is reprehensible. I mean, just even thinking that that if there were cracks caused by the vibrations during that, there's no recourse. I find that hard to believe. I mean, these are clearly stock answers, but you know, the fact that we require our own residents, you know, if someone was going to put up a chain link fence, if it didn't fit in with the neighborhood, we would say no. But yet, just because it's a quasi autonomous agency in the state, they can get away with having an ugly no sound barrier. It's really distressing.
Yeah, I would say kind of the same thing. I'm not happy with their answers. I'm especially still worried about safety. You know, and I know that their attitude to some degree is lots of other places have trains and they're used to them. And I think that's something different in Walpole. You know, if you live in West Roxbury near the train line or live in the city near the train line, the kids do grow up getting used to the trains coming, and you really shouldn't be on the tracks. And
they've been here for 100 years.
And in Walpole, because of the very few trains and generally they're going very slow, kids have gotten used to going over the tracks to, you know, cut over to a sub shop or whatever. And I think that creates a huge risk, especially at the beginning. And I think fencing is good, but I think we're going to have to stay on them to keep pushing for more safety. So,
yeah, and
if we need to, we can have another meeting down at, you know, Old Post Road and ramp it up and get Fox 25 here and a couple other networks, and you know, really zoom in on safety. You know, maybe that's something we need to do a little further down the road. So
yeah,
I am that worried about it. So I'd hate to see a kid going to school over at, you know, Boyden have a problem. So, or kids cutting through the tracks to get to the sub shop. So it's a dangerous situation.
Agreed.
Thanks for keeping us up to date.
That's it.
Awesome. Minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of June 19, 2018.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any old business? Any new business? Let me read my statement. Executive session, Chairman's declaration. Pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, the purpose of this session will be to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate for Norfolk County land, as a discussion in open meeting may have a detrimental effect to the town's position, that a discussion of the foregoing in open session could compromise the purpose for the executive session, and that the Board of Selectmen shall return to open session for the purpose of adjourning the meeting or returning to open session. Jim, you want to make a motion?
Motion to enter executive session for purposes stated by the chairman. This is a roll call vote.
I'll second that. Ann?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Yes, aye.